Paul Pounds. I'm back again. Every so often, the media seems to create like an invisible enemy, something to keep us afraid. And in the 70s, in the 60s and 70s in Britain, it was black magic and voodoo. Now, this is a kind of period of cultural and media history that I'm fascinated by. I've got quite a big collection of news clippings from the time, which will feature in future videos. And yeah, so in the 70s, 60s and 70s, we had this kind of occult explosion and fear that your neighbour was a witch and the covens were trying to capture you and blackmail you and darken your soul. Everything that they warned us about, if you read anything about esoteric thought, it was a kind of crazy mix of like voodoo, Anton LaVey style Satanism, paganism, Wicca, even down to things like yoga and horoscopes. It was all lumped together, and we should all be afraid of it. We got it a few years before the Satanic Panic hit America. And one author that capitalised on this was Eric Ericson. Ericson wrote 3 novels and a biographical dictionary of witches called The World, the Flesh and the Devils. Well, let's move these out of the way and let's have a little look at his first one. So this is 1978 and this was The Sorcerer. I have to say, hats off to New English Library who published these, because they never credited cover artists, but they credited David McAllister for these amazing, beautiful painted covers. They are wonderful. So why don't we just crack on with the blurb? This is The Sorcerer from 78. When Mason, a young scientist, escorts his lover to a wild sexual orgy, he suddenly finds himself unwittingly initiated into a ruthless and dedicated coven. A coven with unparalleled satanic powers, spurred on to even greater heights of depravity by its power-crazed master. In return for his services, Mason is promised untold delights, but should he fail, he is assured of a ghastly and horrible vengeance. His task? To unravel the secrets of the jewel, the most sought-after goal of the black arts, the elixir of eternal life. But as he becomes acquainted with the perverted ways of the coven, he develops peculiar powers, powers which the coven hadn't bargained on, powers which are growing all the time. As the bid for the jewel becomes bloodier and more violent, he bides his time. Sooner or later, he knows his moment will come. It's it's not so much gore horror, it's very much occult horror with, as you can guess, spicy, very, very spicy orgy overtones, which always bothers me because I read a lot on the bus going to work and I always skip over them because I always think, oh god, someone's going to be behind me on the bus, on the seat behind me, reading over my shoulder, just sat there thinking, this guy's reading porn on the bus. So, 1980, he followed it up with one of my favourite titled books and another beautiful David McAllister cover. The Woman Who Slept with Demons. Yes. So, this... all Ericson's books seem to follow a certain theme. It's sex and the occult, but what do we like more than sex and devil worship? Let's hit the blurb. She sold her soul and her body for the power of the damned. Andrew Jarvis found her unconscious, her naked body horribly scarred with bites and scratches and all the marks of violent sexual abuse. He was drawn like a moth to a flame, but it was not she who was the victim. It was Andrew. before he knew he was under a spell, plunged unwillingly into a world of ritual and demonic evil. For she was one of the apart, a woman who drew her terrible powers from the devils themselves, a woman who slept with demons. Yep, another corker. I mean, just look at the cover, listen to the blurb. Don't you want to just splash your cash on this, guys? I mean, come on. So after that, the last that Ericson wrote was Master of the Temple in 1983. I remember seeing this one knocking about in bookshops when I was growing up and started hunting for horror fiction and stuff. Again, classic, beautiful cover, so stylish. Master of the Temple is a bit of a whopper. It's quite a long novel. And like a lot of his books, they tend to meander, punctuated by quite graphic, spicy moments. But they're well researched. I mean, one thing that I think is interesting, I don't know whether it's good research or if Ericson, obviously a pseudonym, is or was involved in this this kind of shadowy world of sex cults in the 70s, if they existed. But there's an element of truth and realism to his books, and even though this one, it being his longest, it's sometimes a little bit of a slog to get through. You can't help thinking he was there, he was involved in this in some way, because as the media made these things up, I'm 100% sure that went on to inspire other people to start these kind of little groups, because the books that were published at the time and the media basically gave you what they thought was instruction manuals to start your own cult, which I'm sure will be another video later on, because I have a lot of those and I love it. So let's blurb the heck out of Master of the Temple. The secret orders have their lines of descent, their connections, and behind every order is another. Some half-seen shadows in the mists of history, some well attested. The works of their initiates known, their names have a resonance. The ancient and mystical Order of the Rosy Cross, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, the Order of the Temple of the Orient, the Order of the Strict Observance. Each has its degrees and ceremonies of initiation, secret rituals, mysteries and paths to hidden knowledge. And in each there are dangers. For knowledge is a two-edged sword that can bring life or death. And among the orders, there is one whose name is known to but a few, and those whose true name is utterly hidden, unspoken, known only to the masters. Here is set down the story of a man of our time who knew earthly success and the pleasure of many women, but who tried to pervert the secret knowledge of that order to his own ends, who invoked powers no man may control. I think the key bit about this blurb is and the pleasure of many women. I think the gentleman protagonist does in fact have dalliances with every single female character in this book. It's like just spice and Satanism, I love it. So yeah, doing a little bit of research for this video, as I always try to do. Ericson is a mystery. There's no reference to him. I can't find anything. So it was obviously a pseudonym, which is just romantic and deepens the mystery. There is, unfortunately, a very famous psychiatrist or psychologist and an art designer and other writers. Eric Ericson seems to be a name that does crop up for other people of note. So when you do Google him, you just get a whole plethora of stuff. I've had a really good hunt round and there's very little. There's actually nothing about this guy. So, well, I mean, we don't even know if he was a guy. But they're fun books. They're not insanely pricey. They're creeping up a little bit. I think out of the three, the Sorcerer is probably best, and then The Woman Who Slept with Demons. Master of the Temple, like I said, there's so much factual stuff in it as well. You've kind of got to be either interested in that as a subject or easily distracted enough by clumsily written sex scenes to keep you ploughing through the book. But they're all fun, aren't they? Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one, and take care, guys.